He removed his helmet, and the alien princess gasped in awe. The crimson prisoner, the obsidian walls of the war chamber gleamed like black mirrors, reflecting the pulsing crimson light that emanated from the quantum containment field. "Commander." Thane Blackwood felt the energy crackling against his skin, a constant reminder that he was now property of the Ashanti Empire. His wrists were bound by crystalline shackles that hummed with an otherworldly frequency designed to suppress any human technological implants or neural enhancements. He had been conscious for 3 standard hours now, though time moved differently aboard the fortress ship Starfall's Edge. The artificial gravity was slightly heavier than Earth normal, and the air carried the metallic tang of recycled atmosphere mixed with something floral that made his sinuses burn. Through the transparent aluminum viewport he could see the contested moon of Tertius Prime rotating slowly below, its surface scarred by orbital bombardments from both human and Ashanti forces. The door to his cell dissolved with a sound like breaking glass, and she entered. Princess Zarathiel of House Velthara moved with the fluid grace of a predator, her 7-foot frame clad in ceremonial armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Her skin was the color of polished copper, marked with intricate silver tattoos that spiraled up her arms and disappeared beneath her armor's collar. Most striking were her eyes, completely white except for pupils that shifted between silver and gold, depending on the angle of the light. "Commander Blackwood," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality common to all Ashanti, though hers held an edge of authority that made lesser beings instinctively bow. "I am Princess Zarathiel, First Blade of the Velthara House, Keeper of the Crimson Fleet." Thane remained seated on the bench that had grown from the floor at his arrival, his battle-worn armor still intact save for his weapons and communication devices. He studied her with the same intensity she was studying him, noting the way her pointed ears twitched slightly when she spoke, the barely perceptible luminescence that seemed to emanate from her silver tattoos. "Your Highness," he said, his voice rough from hours of silence. "I'd stand, but these accommodations aren't exactly built for human courtesy." Something flickered across her features, surprise perhaps, or amusement. Most prisoners either cowered, in terror, or raged helplessly when she entered their cells. This human did neither. "General Krex warned me about your unusual demeanor," she said, moving closer to the containment field. "He believes you're either remarkably brave or completely insane." "Probably a bit of both," Thane admitted, shifting slightly on the bench. The movement caused his armor plates to scrape against each other, producing a sound like grinding stone. "Though I've found the line between bravery and insanity gets pretty thin when you're staring down the barrel of plasma cannons." Zarathiel circled the containment field, studying him from different angles. Her boots made no sound on the obsidian floor, another testament to Ashanti engineering. "Your file makes for interesting reading, Commander. 17 years of military service, decorated veteran of the Proxima campaign, leader of the infamous Ghost Squadron that has caused my people considerable inconvenience." "We do our best," Thane said with a slight grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Though I notice you use the past tense. I'm guessing my squad didn't make it off Tertius Prime." "3 of your men died in the ambush," she confirmed, watching his reaction carefully. 2 others were captured, though they proved far less resilient during interrogation. Thane's jaw tightened, the first crack in his composed facade. "Where are they?" "Dead," she replied simply. "Ashanti neural probes are not designed for human physiology. Their minds fractured." For a moment something dangerous flashed in Thane's dark eyes, and Zarathiel found herself taking an involuntary step backward. The intensity of his grief and rage was almost palpable, even through the containment field. "I'm sorry for your loss," she said, and was surprised to find she meant it. "They died with honor." "Honor doesn't bring them back," Thane said quietly, his voice carrying a weight that spoke of too many friends lost, too many battles that felt meaningless in hindsight. "But I appreciate the sentiment, Your Highness. Not many of your kind would bother with condolences for human casualties." "Perhaps that's why this war has dragged on for so long," Zarathiel mused, deactivating the containment field with a gesture. The crimson light faded, leaving them in the softer illumination of the chamber's ambient lighting. We've forgotten that our enemies are people, not just targets. Thane stood slowly, his armor creaking with the movement. Even with the princess's considerable height, he was only a few inches shorter than her, broader through the shoulders and built like a fortress made flesh. His armor was a patchwork of repairs and modifications, scorched by plasma fire and dented by impacts that should have been fatal. "Is that why you're here?" he asked, rubbing his wrists where the shackles had left red marks. "To remind yourself that humans are people?" "Partly," she admitted, moving to stand before the viewport. Tertius Prime continued its slow rotation below them, its surface a testament to the futility of their conflict. "But also because I'm curious about something." "What's that?" She turned to face him, her white eyes catching the light from the burning moon below. "My interrogators reported something unusual about you, Commander. Something that doesn't appear in any of our intelligence files about human physiology." Thane remained perfectly still, but Zarathiel caught the slight tension that crept into his shoulders. "I'm not sure what you mean. During your capture, you were exposed to enough neural disruptor energy to kill a dozen humans. My soldiers watched you take a direct hit from a synaptic scrambler that should have left you a drooling vegetable. Yet here you stand, not only intact but completely unaffected." She moved closer, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "What are you, Commander Blackwood?" "I'm a soldier," he replied, but there was something guarded in his tone now. "Nothing more, nothing less." "No," she said, shaking her head. "A soldier would have broken under neural interrogation. A soldier would have died from the weapons used to capture you. You're something else entirely." They stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of her words hanging between them like a bridge neither was sure they wanted to cross. Finally, Zarathiel made a decision that would change both their fates. "Remove your armor," she commanded, her voice carrying the full authority of her royal lineage. Thane's eyes widened slightly. "Excuse me?" "Your armor, Commander. Remove it. All of it." She gestured toward the bench where he'd been sitting. "I want to see what you're hiding beneath all that metal and ceramic plating." "Your Highness, I'm not sure that's—" "It wasn't a request," she interrupted, her white eyes beginning to glow with an inner light that spoke of Ashanti biotechnology at work. "You are my prisoner, and I am a princess of the realm. You will comply, or I will have it removed for you." Thane stared at her for a long moment, and she could see the conflict playing out behind his eyes. Fear, defiance, resignation, and something else. Something that looked almost like relief. "If you insist," he said finally, reaching for the release catches on his chest plate. "But don't say I didn't warn you when you see what's underneath." As his fingers worked at the armored clasps, Zarathiel felt her pulse quicken. Something told her that whatever secrets this human carried beneath his battered armor would change everything she thought she knew about the war, about humans, and perhaps about herself. The first piece of armor hit the floor with a metallic clang, and she leaned forward, eager to solve the mystery of Commander Thane Blackwood. Beneath the steel, the second piece of armor joined the first with a resonating clang that seemed to echo through the obsidian chamber far longer than physics should have allowed. Princess Zarathiel watched with growing fascination as Commander Thane Blackwood methodically stripped away layer after layer of his protective shell, each piece revealing more questions than answers. His chestplate came away to reveal a form-fitting undertunic made of some material she didn't recognize, not the standard issue polymer weave used by human forces, but something that seemed to shimmer with its own internal light. As he pulled the tunic over his head, Zarathiel's breath caught in her throat. Thane's torso was a masterwork of scars and artistry that spoke of secrets buried deep within human space. Across his chest, intricate tattoos formed patterns that were definitely not human in origin. Spiraling geometric designs that resembled Ashanti royal markings but older, more complex. The ink itself seemed to pulse with a faint bioluminescence that matched the rhythm of his heartbeat. "Impossible," she whispered, moving closer without conscious thought. Her white eyes had widened, the silver and gold in her pupils swirling more rapidly as her enhanced vision analyzed what she was seeing. Those markings, they're pre-imperial Ashanti script. Bloodline markers that haven't been used for over 3,000 years. Thane's expression remained carefully neutral as he continued removing his armor, but she caught the slight tremor in his hands as he worked at the clasps of his leg guards. "I told you that you might not like what you found." "Where did you get them?" she demanded, her royal composure cracking as the implications crashed over her. No human should know those symbols, let alone bear them permanently on their flesh. "They mark you as—" She trailed off, unwilling to voice the impossible conclusion her mind was reaching. "As what, Your Highness?" Thane asked quietly, stepping out of his leg armor. Beneath the metal, his legs bore more of the ancient markings, but these were different. Not tattoos, but actual biotechnological implants that created raised patterns along his skin. They pulsed with the same inner light as his chest markings, creating a network of illumination that mapped his entire circulatory system. Zarathiel's legs felt suddenly weak. She sank onto the bench, her mind racing through possibilities that threatened to shatter everything she thought she knew about the war between their peoples. "Those aren't just markings," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're symbiotic neural enhancers, Ashanti biotechnology that bonds with the host's nervous system." "Very good," Thane said, turning to face her fully. In the chamber's ambient lighting, his enhanced circulatory system created a map of living light across his body. "Your people's archives are quite thorough, though they seem to have missed a few important details about human colonization efforts." "The lost colony ships," she breathed, pieces of an ancient puzzle clicking into place. 17 human vessels that disappeared during the first wave of expansion 3 millennia ago. The official records claim they were destroyed by navigation, errors, or mechanical failures. Thane nodded grimly. "The official records lie. 7 of those ships made it to their destinations, far beyond what your people thought was the edge of human space. They found worlds that had once been Ashanti, worlds your ancestors had abandoned after some great catastrophe. The colonists found ruins, technology, and—" he gestured to his marked skin. "Guardians." "Guardians?" Zarathiel repeated, though she was beginning to understand. Ancient Ashanti texts spoke of biomechanical entities left to protect important sites designed to adapt and integrate with any sentient species they deemed worthy. Artificial intelligences merged with biotechnology, programmed to preserve Ashanti knowledge and culture. When they encountered the human colonists, they saw potential. Thane's expression grew distant, as if remembering stories passed down through generations. The colonists were dying, radiation exposure, incompatible atmospheric conditions, diseases their immune systems couldn't handle. The Guardians offered a choice: death or symbiosis. The chamber door dissolved again, but this time the figure who entered was Ashanti, Ambassador Nixandra, Zarathiel's cousin and one of her most trusted advisors, stepped through with her usual grace, but her expression was grim. "Cousin," she said, her musical voice tight with urgency. "I apologize for the interruption, but we have a problem. The High Council has just received intelligence that—" She stopped mid-sentence as she took in the scene before her. Thane standing nearly naked, his body covered in glowing Ashanti biotechnology, and Zarathiel staring at him with an expression of dawning horror and fascination. "By the sacred flames," Nixandra whispered, her own white eyes widening as she recognized the significance of what she was seeing. "He's one of the marked. The hybrid colonies we thought were myth." "Not myth," Thane said, inclining his head respectfully toward the ambassador. "Though your people have done an excellent job of pretending we don't exist." Nixandra moved closer, her diplomatic training warring with her scientific curiosity. "The neural implants, the enhanced physiology, the immunity to our weapons. You're not fully human anymore." "None of my people are," Thane confirmed. 7 colonies, each adapted to their specific worlds, each carrying Ashanti genetic modifications that allow us to survive in environments that would kill baseline humans. We've been watching this war for decades, wondering when one side or the other would remember we exist. Zarathiel stood slowly, her mind reeling with the implications. The intelligence reports about human technological advancement, the weapons that seem to incorporate Ashanti principles, the tactical knowledge that allowed your forces to anticipate our strategies. We've been feeding information to both sides, Thane admitted, trying to prevent either faction from gaining a decisive advantage, hoping the war would eventually burn itself out before it consumed everything. But something changed, Nixandra said, her diplomatic instincts recognizing the shift in Thane's demeanor. That's why you're here, isn't it? Not as a prisoner, but as an envoy. Thane nodded grimly. 3 days ago, my people intercepted communications from a third party, someone who has been manipulating both human and Ashanti forces, feeding intelligence to extend the conflict rather than end it. Someone who benefits from keeping our peoples at war. The obsidian walls seemed to pulse with reflected light from Thane's biotechnological enhancements as he continued. The attacks on Tertius Prime, the raids on your outer colonies, the weapons that appear to be human but use Ashanti power sources, none of it is coincidence. There's another player in this game, and they've been using both our peoples as pawns. Zarathiel felt the familiar weight of command settling on her shoulders, but now it carried new meaning. The ghost ships that have been attacking both our supply lines, the technology that seems to be a hybrid of human and Ashanti design. Exactly, Thane said. My mission wasn't to gather intelligence on your fleet movements. It was to get captured, to find someone in the Ashanti hierarchy who might listen to the truth. And you chose me, Zarathiel said, understanding flooding through her. Because my reputation for unconventional tactics suggested I might be willing to consider unconventional solutions. Among other reasons, Thane admitted, and something in his tone made her look at him more closely. The biotechnological markings along his arms were pulsing in a different pattern now, one that seemed almost nervous. Nixandra caught the subtle change as well, her diplomatic training allowing her to read the biological indicators that even Ashanti nobles rarely understood. There's something else, she said, something personal. Thane was quiet for a long moment, then reached for something hidden in the collar of his discarded undertunic. When his hand emerged, it held a small crystal pendant, Ashanti manufacture, but older than anything in the imperial museums. This belonged to my great-grandmother, he said, holding it out toward Zarathiel. She was the first of my line to undergo the symbiosis, the first to carry Ashanti genetics in human form. According to family records, she was also the daughter of an Ashanti noble who chose exile, rather than watch her people destroy themselves in civil war. Zarathiel's breath caught as she recognized the pendant, not the specific piece but the style, the craftsmanship, the particular combination of elements that marked it as belonging to one specific house. Her house. House Velthara, she whispered, taking the pendant with trembling fingers. This is a family crest from 3,000 years ago, from the generation that... She looked up at Thane with new understanding. You're not just marked with Ashanti biotechnology, you carry Ashanti blood. Which makes this war a family reunion of sorts, Thane said with a bitter smile. Though I doubt that was anyone's intention. The chamber fell silent except for the distant hum of the ship's engines and the soft pulse of bioluminescent light from Thane's enhancements. 3 people from 2 different species, bound together by ancient bloodlines and modern warfare, stood at the crossroads of a conflict that could consume both their peoples. What do you propose? Zarathiel asked finally, her voice carrying the weight of royal authority and personal connection in equal measure. An alliance, Thane said simply, between the hybrid colonies, the Human Federation, and the Ashanti Empire. A united front against whoever has been manipulating us all. Nixandra stepped forward, her expression grave but determined. The High Council will never approve such an arrangement. The political implications alone. The High Council doesn't have to know, Zarathiel interrupted, her decision crystallizing with the certainty that came from royal bloodline training. Not immediately. We start small, share intelligence, coordinate our investigations into these third-party attacks. She looked directly at Thane, seeing not just the enemy soldier she had interrogated but something far more complex and dangerous, an ally whose very existence challenged everything she thought she knew about the universe. But I want to know everything, she continued. About the colonies, about the Guardians, about the genetic modifications that allow you to survive our weapons. If we're going to work together, there can be no more secrets. Thane nodded, then began gathering his scattered armor. As he dressed, the glow from his biotechnological enhancements faded to a barely perceptible shimmer, hidden once again beneath layers of metal and ceramic. "Then we have a deal, Your Highness," he said. "Though I should warn you, once this information becomes public, both our peoples will face a choice between unity and extinction, and based on recent history, I'm not sure which way they'll choose." As the obsidian chamber sealed behind them, three unlikely allies began planning a war against an enemy they couldn't yet name, in defense of peoples who might not thank them for the effort. But for the first time in years, the endless conflict between human and Ashanti space seemed like it might have an ending that didn't involve mutual annihilation. The real war, they were beginning to understand, was just beginning.